How's it going, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. You know, it's quite a shame that such a funny man like Robin Williams had so many bad films on his list, and granted, he did make quite a few good ones, but let's be honest, the majority of them were pretty bad to watch. So for today's video, I figured that I'd take a look at one of those bad films. Today, we're going to be talking about Robin Williams' Jack. Jack, starring Robin Williams, is directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Oh my god, okay. I could have sworn I just said Jack, starring Robin Williams, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. God. Man, imagine that. Alright, for real, let's get into this. Jack, starring Robin Williams, is directed by Francis Ford Coppola. No, that can't be it. That can't be it. Jack, starring Robin Williams, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Jack, starring Robin Williams, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Oh no. No. Jack, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Oh no.
No! No! No!
Yeah, that's right. The guy who brought us the cinema masterpiece The Godfather made this film. The story follows a kid by the name of Jack, who's suffering from a rare condition that causes him to age 4 times faster than the average human being. What follows is watching a kid trapped in a man's body trying to survive the challenge of being in the 5th grade. Francis Ford Cope. Jeez. So I've already talked about one of Robin Williams' films on this channel, Mrs. Doubtfire. And out of his whole filmography, it's definitely one of his best performances, and it's one of his most iconic. Granted, there are ones that are better than Mrs. Doubtfire, but there's also that other side of his film list that doesn't exactly have the best reputation. I figured that I would take a dive into that category of bad Robin Williams films. And let's just say that Jack is one of the worst films, if not the worst film on that category. It's quite a shame to say that too, considering that Francis Ford Coppola, out of all directors, was the one in charge of this film. And what I find even more interesting about Coppola being in charge of this film is how he responded to the reception. This is what he said. Jack was a movie that everybody hated, and I was constantly damned and ridiculed for. I must say, I find Jack sweet and amusing. I don't dislike it as much as everyone, but that's obvious. I directed it. I know I should be ashamed of it, but I'm not. I don't know why everybody hated it so much. I think it was because of the type of movie it was. It was considered that I had made Apocalypse Now, and I'm like a Marty Scorsese type of director. And here I am making this dumb Disney film with Robin Williams, but I was always happy to do any type of film. You know, I find it pretty amusing that he ended up calling Jack a dumb Disney film, but at the same time, I can also respect his sense of pride in what he made. And, you know, you can't really see that from most directors. Surely, though, he should see that this movie is not very well written, but I don't know if I should be blaming him for how the movie ended up turning out, or the writers. But when it comes to Coppola and him making this film, this critic is probably the one that summed it up the most accurately. Coppola, of course, was abducted by aliens and replaced with a pod person in the middle of filming Godfather 3. You know, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Let's just say that after rewatching this film for this review, I was very surprised at how lazy it actually is, and there were a lot more things that I took note of than the last time I watched. When you're going to be telling the story of a kid trapped in a man's body, it could make for some interesting moments on screen, but the problem though is that Jack is so lazily written and it dedicates more time into scenes that really add nothing to the story and jokes that can get very awkward at times. Right at the beginning of the movie, they explain that Jack is growing faster than the average human being, and they say that at 10 years old, he could appear to be a 40-year-old man. However, right after this is where a huge missed opportunity is highlighted, and that's when they end up time jumping to the point when he looks like a 40-year-old man. I mean, why would they just jump to that point in his life when they could be showing how he grew up? I think it would have been very interesting. I really wanted to know what the hell happened when he was growing up. Like, what was his life looking like when he looked like a teenager? How was he interacting with people at the time? Was there any news stories on his rare condition? I mean, there's so many possibilities when dealing with this concept, but instead they just skip it all entirely. And this movie is almost 2 hours long, so they could have definitely fit it in there. And when I say that they dedicate so much of this runtime to scenes that really go nowhere, it probably takes up 25 minutes of this film, which could have been used to watch Jack growing up. There's scenes like Jack and his father talking about sloppy joes for like 5 minutes.
Mom made sloppy joes.
Mom hates sloppy joes.
Williams trying to ask his teacher, played by J-Lo, to a dance, which they never end up showing, by the way, and a scene at a bar to show Williams looking sad while trying to get lucky with Fran Drescher. Which is weird, considering that she sounds like a velociraptor for this whole movie.
Rolling along.
Really, really rolling along.
Wow.
Clever girl.
Wow.
I'm serious, they could have taken out all those scenes entirely and you wouldn't miss a thing. And if they just replaced it with Jack growing up, then the story wouldn't be taking so many halts. But instead, the story is nothing but a lazily written and dragged out mess that honestly felt longer than The Godfather. But hey, at least that movie had a lot more going on to keep me invested for 3 hours. If they filled that runtime with like an hour of nothing going on, God, that would be hell. Now, something that I noticed with this film is how confused it seems to be with what age group it's dealing with. And before you comment, I understand that the whole point is to focus on an adult acting like a kid, and that the film is taking those typical kid tropes to create the setting and make some good-hearted humor. But then you gotta really think about it. They're dealing with a group of 5th graders, and there's certain things in this film that don't add up. Certain things such as Williams wanting to sleep in his parents' bed, and the kids are still talking about cooties.
5 weeks! Cooties! Cooties!
Again, I understand why the film is doing this, but it's hard for me to believe that these group of kids are a grade away from entering middle school, and they're still talking about cooties, and Williams is still jumping in his parents' bed because he's scared. I mean, just look at this group of kids at the school. Do you really think that any of them would jump in their parents' bed? You could argue that Jack being secluded from the rest of the world could contribute to this behavior, but I think there's a certain age a lot earlier than 10 that he should be growing out of this habit. But you know, movie, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
No. No! No!
Something else that was really disappointing about Jack is how unfunny Robin Williams is. Albeit, Williams acting like a kid definitely isn't something new, but the way it's done in Jack, there really isn't anything going on, and it seems like Williams doesn't have a lot to work with. There's none of that improv that we love so much, none of that fast-paced humor, just him acting like your typical annoying-ass kid that you wish would just shut up.
No. No! No!
I'll admit that there's some kid jokes that actually work in this movie, some dated, but they're not horrible, and I can give the movie props for that. I mean, something random as hell like this scene got a good laugh out of me. Random as hell, but I still laughed.
Yes? A little louder, Jack.
Yes!
Was that like a random Tourette syndrome outburst or something?
Yes!
What the hell? But then there's that other side of the humor where it just gets awkward.
Hey, Jack, you ever get a boner?
What?
Check this out.
Excuse me. Think our moms look like that?
Kid, what the hell?
Wait. Oh, just warming up. Just clearing my throat.
Oh, he has dirty magazines under his bed. What are dirty magazines? I got to be principal.
Why did she smile at that? Man, if I asked that when I was 10 years old, I'd get my ass served for dinner.
What are dirty magazines? I got to be principal.
That mom's weird. And like most Robin Williams films, it never bothers to add that emotional subtlety, and it just cranks it up to max. Most of the film feels like it's just shoving the emotional moments in your face with all the super sad music in almost every scene. I mean, where the hell is that subtlety, and why is it that the film needs to tell us how to feel, when something like The Godfather, for example, can achieve that with the quiet scenes or with the scenes that have meaningful dialogue in them? I know I keep on referring to The Godfather in this video, but it just feels like that everything from that film was taken, put into Jack, and then it was just dialed down to one big meh. I'll admit that there is a part of this movie that I really do like. Jack's homeschool teacher, played by Bill Cosby, gives a nice little message on why Jack is one of his best students. Despite being a kid at a mental age, through Cosby's eyes, he's able to see an adult that's living his life to the fullest, and that everyone at Cosby's age only focuses on getting up and going to work, and that life can get more boring as you grow up. Jack ends up saying that he'll never be normal, and Cosby ends up responding with this line.
Jack, you'll never be regular. You're spectacular.
Okay, I'll give Jack credit. That was a very meaningful line that Cosby said. I mean, a moment like that is very heartwarming to watch, and I have to give Coppola credit for that. Despite me liking that scene, though, the inclusion of Bill Cosby in this movie made a scene like this, with him crawling in the treehouse, very, very dated. There's also this line that he says, but just listen to it.
I've been known to chase whole families away.
Oh my god. Oh no. So overall, I gotta say that Jack isn't a horrible film, but it's not very good either. The whole concept of a kid trapped in a man's body is as cliche as it can get, but with a great director like Francis Ford Coppola, as well as the great Robin Williams, this was a very disappointing film. It seems to miss out on so many opportunities to show some very well thought out scenes. The comedy can land at times, but the majority of the time it gets really awkward to watch. And the subtlety is just practically non-existent, that most scenes you can see a flashing sign that says, "Be sad, be sad." Like I said, there is a little charming message that's put into this film, and some of the moments can be heartwarming at times, but I can't say that I enjoyed this film overall. It's a film that I'll watch once. Well, actually for me it's been 2 times. But again, I'll probably never be thinking about it after this review. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and give Jack 4 out of 10 crayons.
Yes? A little louder, Jack.
So I'd like to know, what do you guys think of Jack? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Not care to watch it? I'd love to know in the comments below. And if you made it this far in the video, I'd appreciate it if you leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more future movie content. Thank you guys for joining me in this review. Look forward to more very soon. And until the next one, you guys, I'll see you later.